books. My name is Jen, and today we're going to talk about some books that I got recently. So I have been, over the past couple of months, fairly stressed. Basically since the middle of February, I have been in a state of anxiety, stress, and depression, pretty much because of some stuff that was going on. Physically, I am okay. Mentally, emotionally, I'm getting there, but here we are. Because of that, I ended up, because doing what I normally do, buying up some books, so please come see what I have gathered together here. Alright, so first up we've got some nonfiction, basically a memoir and two biographies. Well, one of them is most definitely a biography and the other one is kind of, you'll see. And the fourth nonfiction I got is actually a true crime book. So first, the memoir that I grabbed is Perfume from Provence, and this is by Lady Winifred Fortescue, and this is basically a memoir from the early 1930s. Lady Winifred Fortescue and her husband left England and settled in Provence in France. And so this is basically the adventures of an expat in France in the 1930s. I have heard a lot of things about this, both good and kind of bad, but I've heard a lot about it on BookTube and also just out in the world, strangely. A couple of times I've heard people talk about this. And I'm interested in history, and I'm also interested in like memoirs of people going and doing things, so this sounded kind of interesting. I have heard people say that it's a little bit of rich people doing rich people things, and biography that I have is The Good Neighbor, The Life and Work of Fred Rogers, and this is by Maxwell King. This is what I believe the movie with Tom Hanks is based on, is, well, obviously on the life of Mr. Rogers, but also like directly involving this book, I guess. It has like some nice pictures. You can see there's like a model of the neighborhood. I was a Mr. Rogers kid. I watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood pretty religiously throughout my childhood. And really loved it. Mr. Rogers' death was like really impactful on me at the time because he was just such a large part of my childhood. And I've always been kind of interested in his life and him as a person, because he just seems like he was just genuinely one of those people that is 100% genuinely a very good person. Like, I've never heard anyone have a bad thing to say about him ever. I mean, even the people in like Congress or whatever that he went up against to like tell them, hey, don't cut funding to PBS because it's really important for kids, I don't think they had anything bad to say about him either, because he was just the person that exuded kindness. Very interested to learn more about him in general, and I like learning more about famous people that I'm particularly interested in. He's one of them. So the other one that's kind of a biography, sort of, in a manner of speaking, is She Come By It Natural, Dolly Parton and the Women Who Lived Her Songs by Sarah Smarsh. And I know that Dolly Parton herself wrote a memoir, I believe. I think she had one she wrote with her sister, one of her sisters, and it's about growing up in Appalachia. Don't quote me on that. but I feel like I saw an interview with her and her talking about it at one point, which I do want to read at some point in the future. But this is a little bit different. Dolly Parton is also one of those people that I think is genuinely a pretty good person, and I'm interested in her. And this is basically about her, but not about her at the same time. So the author, Sarah Smarsh, grew up in the Kansas wheat fields and airplane factories and witnessed firsthand particular strengths and vulnerabilities of females in working poverty. She challenged a typically male vision of rural America with her first book, Heartland, starring the fiery, hard-luck women who raised her. And She Come by a Natural, she reveals the overlooked contributions to social progress by such women, including those averse to the term feminism, as exemplified by Dolly Parton. So, and it like talks about Dolly Parton's life from impoverished hauler in the Great Smoky Mountains to stardom in Nashville and Hollywood, by girl singer managed by powerful men to self-made mogul of business and philanthropy. And it basically just kind of looks at that and also the lives of women who also lived through what she sings about in her songs. So I thought that was like a really kind of interesting look at Dolly Parton, and like I think I know of her more through her interviews and movies. Like 9 to 5 is one of my favorite movies ever, but I probably know more of her in that vein than I do of her as a singer, which she is mostly known for, and her philanthropy. I know more about her philanthropy than the singing as well, though I know like the handful of her big hits, but I've never like actually sat down and gone through her entire discography, I guess. But this goes more into depth about her songs, because she's largely a storyteller through her music, so that seems to be the kind of look at her, and also the women that she sings about, the people who've lived these experiences, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I guess this book was actually part of a series that was published in like a magazine, it looks like, so that's cool too. But I thought, you know what, this is an interesting look at someone I'm interested in and things like that, so I thought it was pretty cool. The last nonfiction I got, like I said, is a true crime. It's because of a podcast. I really like True Crime Campfire. It's one of my favorite true crime podcasts, and I've been trying to like catch up on the episodes recently, and I want to say like a month or two ago, maybe, they did an episode on a heist that took place fairly recently, and this is the book about it. It is The Feather Thief, Beauty, Obsession, and the Natural History Heist of the Century, and this is by Kirk Wallace Johnson. And the hosts of the podcast actually used this as one of their sources, and they were talking about it, and the whole thing just sounded so absolutely bonkers that I was like, I need to read the book about it. Basically, in 2009, a American flautist who was at London's Royal Academy of Music, he left the concert that he just performed at and then went to the British Museum of Natural History and managed to steal a whole bunch of dead animal pieces. Feathers, basically. Rare bird specimens. Basically what he stole it for. Now you might be asking yourself, why would anyone do that? What's up with that? It's probably worth a lot of money, right? Who would want this, of all things? He stole them because the feathers are indeed worth staggering amounts of money to a particular interest of the thieves, as well as the men he was selling to. Do you have any guesses? Because I was shocked. The Victorian art of salmon fly tying. Yeah. And somehow this idiot managed to pull this off and have it remain undetected for a while. It's like a completely bonkers story, and just the whole concept of it, from why he stole them, this weird ass hobby that he just stole them for, and the heist. I love a good heist story, and involving like a museum, and not even like an art history museum, like a natural museum. That's new. And also the fact that when they were talking about the background of the thief, he's my age. And normally I'm used to bad people in crimes, it being old-timey, or at least, you know, in the 80s or 90s or something like that. It took place a while ago. No, this is fairly recently and involves an idiot who's like my age. So, very interesting. Anyway, I got this book because it sounded fascinating. So, yeah. Oh, there's also really cool pictures in here. This is what I mean by Victorian fly tying. Why? Let's see. I've got 4 books that are basically like mystery, horror, paranormal mystery, spooky elements. Yeah. Okay, so the first of these is Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero, and this is a book that I have wanted to read since it came out, but it's also one of those that I kept putting it aside because I was like, oh, there's other ones that I'm more excited about, or you know, maybe it won't be as good as it sounds, and you know, all of that. Okay, so this is basically like Scooby-Doo. So it says, in 1977, 4 teenagers and a dog, Andy the tomboy, Nate the nerd, Carrie the bookworm, Peter the jock, and Tim the Weimaraner, solved the mystery of Sleepy Lake. The trail of an amphibian monster terrorizing the quiet town of Blighton Hills led the gang to spend a night at the Bowen mansion and apprehend a familiar culprit, a bitter old man in a mask. Now, in 1990, the 20-something former teen detectives are lost souls. Plagued by night terrors and Peter's tragic death, the 3 survivors have been running from their demons. When the man they apprehended all those years ago makes parole, Andy tracks him down to confirm what she's always known. They got the wrong guy. Now she'll need to get the gang back together and return to Blighton Hills to find out what really happened in 1977, and this time she's sure they're not looking for another man in a mask. A mad scientist concoction of H.P. Lovecraft, teen detectives, a love of Americana. This is a story filled with rich horror, thrilling twists, outright hilarity, and surprising poignancy. It's basically, it basically is like, I know they said like Lovecraft stuff, which makes me a little bit nervous because I haven't read that much Lovecraft, but I don't really like it. It's probably controversial of me to say. But this, it just, look at that. It's just Scooby-Doo. It's basically Scooby-Doo. It's like what happened after Scooby-Doo years later when, you know, after somebody has died. I'm just fascinated. So, one of these I have not read before. And I don't really know that much about that. Actually, so 2 of these I have read before. So these are old-ish books. They're weekly reader books. I found this off a store on Etsy, and these are old books that I think was part of like a series that you could order from in like the 60s? No, 70s, 1970s. And my grandparents had some of these in their house. Actually, they had both of these, and at some point I ended up with them, reading them, really liked them, and no idea where the copies are now. So I was thinking about them recently, and I found this, and this got me excited because this is the one that I was thinking about the most. It is The Ghost of Windy Hill by Clyde Robert Bulla, illustrated by Don Bolognese. this scared the shit out of me as a kid. That creepy lady. This scared the crap out of me as a kid. But it was also just really interesting, and it's got creepy, like, paintings in here, and I could not tell you what this is about other than I remember distinctly there being, like, a widow's walk on a house being involved and being, like, set not in the present day. It was set in the 1800s, I think, and it's just a little bit creepy. Then there was this one, which I remember even less about, but it's The Mystery of the Great Swamp by Marjorie A. Zapf. And obviously there's a mystery in a swamp. I believe it takes place in Florida? Yeah, Okefenokee Swamp. And yeah, I can tell you even less about this, but I know I read it at some point and it was interesting what I remember. They're just kind of cool. And then this one I know nothing about. It is The Haunted Cove, and it's by Elizabeth Baldwin Hazelton. I don't, like I said, don't know anything about it, but I mean, it looks spooky. It's a cove. I don't know, maybe it involves, like, a pirate. I have no idea. Anyway, snatched these up. Pretty interested in them. I might save these for October. These might be a good, like, spooky read, or what is it? Is it Summerween? Summerween's a thing, right? I miss it every year. Like, I'm never prepared for it every year. Every time there's, like, one of these big things, I always just, like, fuck up entirely and just don't become involved. But I don't know. Maybe I'll try to keep track and do that this year. And maybe I can read these during the summer or something. I don't know. But those were those. And the last thing I grabbed is a graphic novel, which I also heard about on a podcast. This was Books Unbound, because the hosts on that talk about this graphic novel a ton. And this is another one that I've seen around and have kind of wanted to read, but again, just keep putting it off. But decided to grab a copy. So it's Sheets, and this is by Brenna Thumler. I think it's like her mom has died and her dad's kind of checked out mentally, emotionally, so it's up to her to try to help their family-owned laundromat survive, and she's also dealing with her own grief. And meanwhile, there is a young ghost named Wendell, I believe. Yeah. He escapes from, like, Ghostland and ends up at the laundromat, and I think there's, like, a friendship that's formed, or maybe they help each other deal with things. Apparently it's, like, very sweet. And also, I think the artwork is very interesting. It's a very interesting style. I'd save this for the fall, but knowing me and graphic novels, I'll probably read this sooner rather than later. But yeah, that was everything that I got recently, because I don't know, guys, I felt a hole inside of me and I filled it with books, so yeah. That probably sounded kind of inappropriate, but you know what, fuck it. Anyway, this is everything that I got recently. Again, I'm gonna say, I'm excited to read all of these, but who knows? I'll get to it in a week, into the month, the year, 3 years. No one knows anymore, you guys. Let me know if you've read any of these. If you liked or didn't like them, please no spoilers. Let me know also if there's any you think I should get to sooner rather than later. And also let me know if you're interested in hearing my thoughts about these, because maybe I'll try to get to them sooner rather than later as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for always watching. If you are new here, please subscribe if you would like. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.